And welcome to Stoked, the ultimate Star Trek online podcast. My name is Chris. Well, hello there, Stoked viewer. I know you're probably having a very difficult time right now. A lot of things have changed. You know what? Maybe I'll just go down a quick list, just so that way you know I identify with you. I feel you. In no particular order of importance, I've grown out my head hair a bit. You know, I've winterized my face. I know a lot of you are probably reeling from that. I'm sure the Stowe forums will explode as you analyze what that really could mean. There's also been, a significant loss in co-host in the show. I've cut back a few pounds and lost a co-host in the process. And that's a big change for the show. And then, of course, really the thing that's probably got everybody all worked up is all of the free-to-play stuff that's on Tribble. I mean, there's dilithium stuff, which all plays into a huge economy stuff. There's the new Doff System, all kinds of things. And, well, while it's true that it's going to be a huge change for the show, and it is kind of funny that this huge change seems to be sort of Stoked is going through a huge change in transition at the same time that Stowe is. You know, it's almost like both things are relaunching at the same time. And I guess that's just how the universe worked things out. That does mean that this show might be a little bumpy from time to time. If you've been watching Stoked since the beginning, you'll kind of reflect back on how much this show has changed as I bring this up. And you think about it. We used to have 3 co-hosts. That's changed. We used to have audio only. Hell, our first episode was audio only. We weren't even going to do a video podcast. We thought, why would people want to watch something about a game when they could be playing the game and listening to us? Episode 1, audio only. Well, that changed. There's a lot of things that are going to change. The game is going to go through a lot of changes, and I recognize that. And what we're about to talk about today might seem a little critical of Cryptic. It might seem maybe even like we're angry, and there could be some truth to that, but I also want you to know that going into this, we acknowledge all of this stuff is up for change. Everything with the show, our format, everything you're going to see in the game is up for change. So it's just now beginning to reach this discussion stage where we can sort of hammer out the things we do like and don't like. And we're doing the same for the game and for the show. So let us know your thoughts. Leave your comments. You know, we'll work on things, tweak things a bit, adjust things as we need. And, you know, hopefully, in the meantime, we can talk about what's important to everybody, and that's the game and all the changes that are going on. So without further ado, let's jump into Stoke's new News Roundtable. And it's time for the new Stoked News segment. Now, this one features roundtable guests that are from the Jupiter Force. It's our team now of specialists who collect news throughout the week. And joining me for the first news roundtable segment is 2 gentlemen. Above me over here is Irish. Hey, Irish, welcome back. You probably recognize him from the Foundry Files. And then over on this side is Mr. Peregrine Falcon. He's a longtime Jupiter Force member. A little infamous, perhaps, in the Stowe forums, but always a great thinker and joining us on the roundtable. Hey, guys, welcome. I say, let's start the conversation off with the Doff System. What do you guys think?
Well, it's probably going to start with a little bit on the positive side of the Doff System, because with the, shall we say, lack of content we've had for quite a while, everyone was looking forward to the Doff System.
It was kind of the big thing. Yeah.
More than anything else, actually, a lot of the bitching that went on with Season 4, aside from everything got broken, was people saying, where's my Doff System? So when it arrived, it was bound to be either highly controversial or absolutely loved. It's kind of fallen in between the two.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll say I think it is a fun gameplay. I like the idea that the main thing I like for it actually is when I'm flying around in Stowe, I feel like I'm multitasking. Like when I'm doing other missions, I'm doing other things on the back end to sort of perk up my gameplay, and it kind of gives me more of a sense of being a captain and being in command of what's going on my ship. So I do like that, but I think what you're going with the negative side is the part that's starting to eat away at me the more I think about it, and that is I kind of have to babysit this thing. I kind of have to log into the game all the time now.
Well, that's the entire point. That's sort of the purpose behind the Doff System, is to keep you coming back, to keep you playing, to keep you engaged. It's sort of the carrot side of the operant conditioning system that they're adding to Stowe, otherwise known as a Skinner box. The entire purpose behind these type of systems are to keep you coming back and keep you coming back and keep you coming back. So while it's fun, and it does make you feel like a captain because you're managing your crew and your officers, but the downside of it is that it's designed to psychologically hook you and keep you coming back.
I would say that's probably something that's more of a consideration in a free-to-play MMO, because if a lot of you out there have probably experienced this a bit, if you've dabbled with free-to-play MMOs, there's sort of a different psychology there. It's less critical that you log in and get your money's worth, so it's sort of easier to set it aside and just not really worry about it because you can pick it up anytime. So by baking in little things into the game that make you come back, I could see why that's a really good thing for free-to-play model, but it doesn't necessarily seem like it would really line up with maybe subscribers or lifetimers who don't play that way.
Well, and then now, as I said, the Doff system is the carrot side. Now, on the other side, you have the stick, which in this case is refining your dilithium ore. You have to log in every day to refine the dilithium that you've already gotten from your missions to bring it into refined so that you can then spend it. And that's one of the problems that people are having with the economy is it's currently being shown on Tribble. Another good example is there's a daily on Holodeck that gives you one emblem. That same daily on Tribble gives you 480 dilithium. But if you transfer your character over to Tribble, you only get 336 dilithium per emblem.
Okay.
Which means now these numbers are in flux. They're subject to change, disclaimer, more patches coming. But what this means is if this number isn't changed, then it means that that what's going to happen is when the free-to-play players come in, they'll put in the same amount of time doing their missions, doing their dailies, and they'll get more dilithium for their time than people like you or me who've already played the game for months and years.
Because we're kind of getting screwed in the conversion process?
Right.
Well, it's kind of a double whammy there, Chris, because as Peregrine said, we did a check on taking one of my characters who only had, I think, like 198 merits and then 250 emblems from the vet reward. We threw him over and worked out the exchange rate was 336 for the conversion. Where the second punch comes in is I went up to ESD over on Tribble.
Yeah.
Took a look at, we just decided to pick one base level weapon. So we picked a 30 emblem on a holodeck Mark 11 beam array, anti-proton. And we looked for what it costed over on the new ASD and it was costing, I think, 22,620. So the conversion rate of that cost was about 754 dilithium per emblem. So it was almost like you, even though you converted at 336, you had half the purchasing power you previously had. So it's a little bit more of a sting for the older guys.
Right. So whereas previously you would hit Vice Admiral and then you'd get your new ship, you'd go and you'd get your purple gear, and it covered most of it, and you might have to work on getting some of the rest from the exchange. But basically, you made rank, you went to Starfleet Command, they issued you your new gear, and you went on with playing the game. That's not the case anymore. Now you're going to have to keep
But is this a case of short time outlook? Because wouldn't in 6 months with the help of the Doff system, because remember, those Doff missions, they return dilithium and they help you build that up. In 6 months, will it kind of balance itself out?
I think it's very likely, yeah.
I was going to say, I think in 6 months' time, what's going to happen is the old fogies, as in our guys, our generation, for lack of a better phrase, we're going to just adjust to it or we're going to move on. Yeah. It is a sting. There's a few more things we'll go through in the docket that add more sting to the tail of this thing, but you can see the pattern. Even if the numbers change a little bit forward or backwards, you're never going to keep everybody happy with this kind of thing. It just doesn't happen that way.
Before we move,
I think it's hold on. I think it's more than just a case of
go ahead.
It's change and change is bad, because you've also got a number of other things that are changed as well. You've got the VA token that's been taken away from us. You've got the T5 Excelsior that has had part of its transwarp functionality removed. This despite the fact that people paid real money for that. So you paid real money for it, and after you purchase the item and you now own the item, they're now taking stuff away, right? They've taken away the emblems from the vet rewards. And
chat room says that one interruption. Chat room says that transwarp thing has been fixed, and they're not like, I'm not gonna have it taken from me. I'm not gonna have it removed. And if they've fixed the transwarp issue, yeah, it got moved to a console now, but it's kind of a wash.
Well, that's good because I was going to say, from day one, I've always, with my Excelsior, and actually it was you, Chris, got me a word to the Excelsior, but getting that ship, I always wanted to be able to lift that transwarp power and go wherever I took that Admiral to.
Yeah, right, I know.
And now I can do that. Well, okay, win cruisers, but at least I can do it to some degree.
Yeah, that's so it could be a win. But Peregrine, you're right in the sense that there are a lot more changes here than I think we initially expected when the free-to-play stuff was launched. It seems like feature creep isn't the right term, but it seems like there's a lot of things that are being changed and fixed along with free-to-play as that whole transition. And I think right now, though, as long-term players, it's just a whole lot of change for what seems like change's sake and what seems like to benefit free-to-play players. But I got to look at it from the long-term perspective, is if the three of us think it could be a wash in 6 months, then what we're really getting upset with is a temporary disruption. And and a long-term gameplay change, but also some improvements, like the Doff system. I mean, we didn't really finish our discussion on the Doff system. There's things that they're doing there that show real new gameplay mechanics that really do change certain things about the game, and for me, have made it more enjoyable. So there's takeaways, but there's giveaways. I think what the community is struggling with is it too much take and too much rearranging. I'll give you an example, and I know we're kind of jumping around here, but I'm passionate about this. My main issue, talking about dilithium, the more I think about it, I'm okay with the Doff system being a carrot to get me to sign in. I'm not going to do the 25-minute thing where I do the 25-minute perk, but I'll probably sign in once a day, maybe. And if that happens, the dilithium cap, where you can refine 8,000 ore a day, if I log in for the Doff system regardless, that's not so bad. But what I'm worried that's going to happen is my current gameplay allows me to go a couple of days. Like I didn't update my Doff system since Thursday. And then I logged in this morning and did all my stuff, and I had 12 assignments to check in and all that kind of stuff. I don't like being guilted into logging in so that way I can remain competitive with the rest of the players in order to claim that 8,000 dilithium. And I think that if there was something in place for subscribers where that was automatically processed, that would feel less... I don't know, there's something about that. There's something about them doing that is really bothering me at a really fundamental level.
It would feel more like you were playing STO on your terms, rather than being forced to play it on Cryptic's terms.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
You do have another piece comes up with that. It's actually very topical because I think it was Thursday maybe it went in the patch where they tweaked some of the numbers in relation to how much AFK, essentially XP, you were getting. For example, I was leveling a KDF character using the typical log on once a day, go looking for 20 minutes to catch my 20 missions, maybe 25 minutes, whatever. And I looked specifically for things that were giving me 192 XP with about 12 hours of range. So I knew I could go in, get that done, go to work, come back, check on it, repeat the process.
Yeah.
I went in the other day and took a look, and with the new skewing of the numbers, it looks like those missions are giving me maybe, if I'm lucky, 50, 60 XP. And the shorter ones, the 2 to 3 hour ones, are giving me the XP in the range of maybe 1 to 110. So it's actually benefiting now more if you do the Farmville thing of checking in every couple of hours, as opposed to what I was trying to do, which was the once a day if I was lucky check-in. So that's kind of going that direction as well. It's pulling me into the game, and with also having the complication, because I'm coming from the crafting side, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, having to do my dilithium conversions, it is starting to feel like this game is trying to sort of hook me in, which is going back to what Peregrine talked about with the operant conditioning thing, the Skinner box.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a bit difficult. New people coming in are not going to have that problem, but anyone who's come from where we've been, where granted we've had an exceptional period without real content, so we're not used to having to log in to do new things. We've been logging in. Seriously though, we've been logging in to do STFs and to hang out with the fleet and help new people. We haven't been logging in to run missions.
Yeah.
That's just incidental. We want to level people up. Let's go.
It is fun to log into the Doff system to have something new to do.
Well, speaking of the Doff system, before we get to crafting, there's one good point about the Doff system that I think you forgot to mention, Chris.
Okay.
Uh-oh. Bajoran Doffs have been removed completely from the Doff system.
I'd be happy if those just accidentally got deleted, because I know there's might be some sneaky intentions to work those back in during the featured episode, but Cryptic, I'm telling you, if that entry in the database was accidentally deleted, I don't think there'd be a lot of questions asked.
I'd like to be the first one to start off the conspiracy theory. Let's just work this out. Okay. Monday, a new dev starts.
Oh, yeah.
And they have where's that guy? Thursday, Bajoran Doffs disappear.
You're okay.
Not saying anything, but think about it.
No, that's logical. You're just tracking down the time of events.
Sounds like mission accomplished to me.
Good job, Jeremy. Jeremy leaves the show, joins Cryptic, and the Bajorans disappear from the Doff system? That's awesome. Good work, J-Man. He's our man is on the inside. Oh, all right, let's change gears. I think we've kicked around. It's interesting. The Doff system led into conversations about dilithium, didn't it? And now I think the crafting system is going to take us that way. Who wants to start with the crafting system? Irish, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I can give you some ideas on that one. The main thing to the crafting system was going back a few weeks where people logged in and noticed that suddenly we couldn't craft, I think it was the even tiers of weaponry. or basically anything in there. And there was no real explanation for it. Then what's happened now is on Tribble, we've gotten back the missing tiers, but there's a little sneaky addition to the cost of dilithium. And by little, I mean not so little. I looked, again, using a Mark 11 weapon as an example because most people are VA. What would have cost you previously about, I think it was like 30 samples, 2 rare particles, and a red schematic, now is going to cost you, in addition to that, 16k refined dilithium. So 2 days worth of conversion.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
again,
about
that's
60
time-based.
to 70% of the cost of just buying the item outright. Isn't that right, Irish?
Yeah, I think it's 22,620 to buy them. So it's about, what, 16k versus 23k?
And is the crafting one necessarily any better?
No.
There's different bonuses on them, and again, I think that's something we probably bring up with Nikki later on in terms of what those bonuses really mean.
Okay.
But for most players, and I would put myself in that group as well, I wouldn't be too concerned with the bonuses. I don't really PvP that much, but if it's a Mark 11 weapon and I can get it from crafting, which is X amount of hours of me digging around looking for samples, and then on top of that, I now need to go find a way to get the lithium, although, as you said, the Doff system will help me do that while I'm essentially doing other things. Then the next piece I got to worry about is where am I getting the time to do the conversion? Because now what I could have got done in maybe 3 or 4 hours of work is going to take me an additional 2 days just to do my conversions.
Of dilithium.
So it's slowing me down. Yeah, exactly. It's slowing me down. It's gating my progress in equipping my ship, which is understandable if that is the common thing we're seeing from a lot of these new systems, is to take your time off you, keep you in there longer, keep you checking back in more frequently.
Sure.
They all fit. But from a crafter's perspective, it is a bit of a sting.
Well,
Like,
when you
with
look
our-
at the crafting items, it looks like dilithium has been bolted onto it. It just looks like dilithium was added, and there's no other reason than just to slow it down. Wouldn't it be awesome if there was like a perk for cashing in dilithium, like it made the item have a plus something? Because right now it just is. You're right. It's a gate.
I don't
see
think
something there.
That would make it a lot better if, like, you could do the crafting normally and then say you would get Mark X item, right? But it would be a common. But then if you spent X number of dilithium during the process of crafting, then you could add certain bonuses onto
Sure,
it. So you can either craft out a whole bunch of shit all at once, or you can spend the dilithium and add certain bonuses on. Then it wouldn't seem so bolted on, and it would give you options.
Right. That's my thing.
It's worth mentioning as well, this is a discussion or beginnings of a discussion I've seen come up before in MMOs, which is the whole idea of loot versus crafted.
Right.
And we haven't had that in this game up until now. It's always been a case of people went one or the other. There was no real comparison between the two.
Yeah.
If you start using this and you start bolting in dilithium, where it's easier for a player to literally go grind dilithium and buy equipment than it is for the crafter to make it, I think you're skewing it a little too far that direction.
Well, the other thing that crafting is going to be up against is, after a few months, all of the silver subs and up are going to, or gold, whatever. I can't keep it straight, but the lifers and the monthlies are going to have a stipend of 400 C-store points every month. After an initial rush, a lot of those people are going to have points just building up, and you can convert those C-store points into dilithium on the exchange. So it's going to be even easier to buy equipment than it will be to actually craft it. So crafting is going to kind of have has a double whammy coming for it. Yeah,
and that's the thing about it. Like you said it yourself. You were hoping that the next time the guys touched off the crafting system was to make it more interesting, more engaging.
Right.
And what's happening here is it's lifting that entry level bar a little too high for me, because I'm looking at the crafting and I'm thinking I don't really start worried about crafting stuff until I get up to, say, the captain level, and then I'll probably a couple of new things on a ship to level it up faster. And then when I get to VA, practically everything I was doing was crafted. Whereas now it's a complete different system for me.
That is true, Irish. There's a point that I made on the live stream pre-show was that I never got wholly... I dabbled in crafting, but I remember from way, way back, they said, yeah, crafting's in the game, but it's not really where we want it to be. And then there was some slight changes, but it's not fun. What it feels like is they took another form of currency and labeled it crafting.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. And I just have to buy components with these things that are harder to get than they should be, and it's no fun at all. Whereas even in Champions and World of Warcraft, the crafting feels much different. And I was hoping that the next time they spent energy and put time onto crafting, it would turn it into a way that would go like, oh man, yeah, I want to craft now. That's really going to make this something else. You know, I'm going to work on the Doff system. I'm going to work on my crafting. I'm going to have a lot of things going on. And that really broadens what I can do in the game and really spreads out content for me. Unfortunately, these changes have made it so much more that I'm not going to craft that it's like, why is this even in the game? Why do I even want to go to memory alpha?
Yeah, the entire purpose behind crafting for a lot of people is that if they don't want to grind, if they don't want to work the market, if they don't really have a way to get rich because they don't want to engage in that style of gameplay. Instead, what they can do is they can engage in the crafting style gameplay. They can go out and get the things they need to get to assemble the components to make the items, and then maybe they can sell those things that they've crafted and make their money that way. But that's just not the case because as I said, the stuff that you and then the margin is so low. Let's say I go and I get a whole bunch of anomalies, and then I get 16,000 dilithium, and then I craft my item. Well, you can buy the same mark item or a better item for only 23,000 dilithium.
Yeah.
So if I sell it to you, you're not going to pay me any more than 23,000 dilithium at most. So I can't even make a decent profit on it. I don't recoup enough money really to keep the crafting going.
And with C-store stipends and being able to buy dilithium and the Doff system, you're probably just going to be more likely as a player to just buy the gear. And
it's also worth mentioning there's a component missing here, and this is...
Go ahead.
I don't want to mention a certain MMO I was quite familiar with the crafting system in it because I'll have to give everyone a chat a drink. But basically, the crafting system doesn't have an element of skill to it in this game yet.
That's the thing.
If I go out and I'm hunting stuff down, I'm shooting, it's like a little lottery thing. I shot it. Oh, I got loot. Great. What is it? Oh, that's crap. Sell it. And then maybe you get the one awesome item and you're like, brilliant. That made it worth my time. Now, with crafting, I don't have the option of going in and getting my samples, putting it together, and there's nothing more than a vendor system of hand it in the machine, take my item out. Whereas if I had some kind of a mini game there where I can control the quality or the bonuses of the output,
exactly,
I think that would make me more invested in the crafting side of it.
And something to keep in mind as Sto is making this transition from a casual MMO game where you're a Star Trek fan and you're just showing up and you're sitting back and playing a Star Trek game, and it's going more to a method where there's systems in place to keep free-to-players coming back to make it more MMOer. It's becoming more of an MMOer's game with these changes, with a lot of this stuff. But the crafting system is so deaf to that player base right now. It like, honestly, if Steve Jobs ran Cryptic, I think he would say the crafting system, just take it out. Just remove it. Just take all these things out. I don't want anybody to see this until it's something players want. I mean, and I don't know if I'm wrong, but I'm trying to see where the crafting system adds real value to the game and for who it's focused at, because it's obviously not focused at me as the hardcore Star Trek fan who plays this game, and it's obviously not focused at MMO players who, like Peregrine, are going to want to work the economy and make a profit and things like that. So what the hell good is it?
Is it focused on you, Irish? Because I know you've done crafting in at least one MMO. Is it the kind of crafting that you find enjoyable?
No, this is the point I was going to make. The crafting mechanic itself wasn't something in this game that interested me. I love crafting ideas. That system amazes when you can go in and grab all these different components from either questing or hunting or mining or whatever, and then make something from it and then possibly make an actual like a living in the game from that. That's my kind of a crafting system. This system is more like I loot it, I vendor it, or whatever. But
and so my point to the Steve Jobs, because OOP is being a dick in the chat room, my point is that there's people who would look at something with a critical eye and say, I wouldn't dare ship that as part of my product. Now, I'm not calling the crafting system that bad, but that's what I mean. I mean, look at it with a critical eye.
No, I'm calling the crafting system that bad. The crafting system is that bad. The crafting system in this game is you run around, you grab a bunch of stuff, you walk up to a high-tech ashtray, you jam it in, something pops out, and you're done. And now they've made it worse by also requiring you to do dilithium. The whole thing is just a non-starter, and if it goes live like this, it's just going to kill it. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
Well, that's a good disclaimer. It might not go live like this.
Yeah, plus you've also got the point to take into account is that if that is, as you said, Steve Jobs, this isn't good enough, remove it, you've then taken crafting out of Sto.
It doesn't have crafting now. It has an alternative form of currency that's harder to get and doesn't get you the return that the other stuff does. Think
of this like a box advertisement, crafting system. If you haven't got that in the system, anything at all, even though we think it's a vendorized system, and you remove it, you've taken an entire wing of the game away. Right? If you leave it as it stands now and the typical MMO process of, okay, not this cycle, not the next cycle, maybe the iteration after that, we get to it.
That's what it is.
You still have it.
They will, right? I mean, I think one of the things that D'Angelo impressed upon me when I was there in my visit is he does have an eye for quality. He has, you see them going back and refining and changing old things that have bugged people for a long time. Like, they had to do some changes recently that involved visiting like every map to fix the press V for the Klingons. And, there's a little things like that I know he's going to focus in on. But right now, it feels like a misstep that didn't need to happen at all. Like, they didn't need to bolt on dilithium unless would not holding. I guess the problem is if you don't restrain crafting, it's going to throw everything else off, isn't it? That's
exactly
the issue.
That's the problem. The crafting, if it was left the way it was without putting the dilithium cost in, especially the 16K thing, you're going to make it so that what's going to happen is two types of weapon will get out onto the exchange. We're already seeing it on live as it is. The guys go in and hunt out the fleet actions to get the really high-end weapons that sell for 4 and 5 mil. And then you're going to get the guys doing the Mark 11 purples, putting them out on there for maybe a mil a shot, and someone kitting out a whole ship the second they hit VA.
Yeah. So what you're saying, though, is that I would have the option to either run STS to get my high-end purple gear. I would have the option to grind dilithium and go to the vendor and get my high-level purple gear. Or I would have the option to use my energy credits and go to my friend, the crafter in our fleet, and buy my high-end purple gear. So I would have 3 options, and now really if this goes live, there's only 2 because nobody's really going to be crafting. So, I mean, this is bad. Why?
Well, you've got a 3. Don't forget the other one is that you can go onto the C-store, whip out that credit card, get some points, buy the dilithium, do the conversion thing, and then buy the weapons for the 23K a shot. So you've got multiple options. Like, they're still there. It's just that because the crafting component is about to get, I'm not going to use it's not a nerf. It's more a case of it's just being made more inconvenient.
I think it's kind of clear they don't want you to use it. That seems to be my conclusion.
It might be an unintentional side effect, but I think they had to put the dilithium cap in there. Yeah. But it just has a nasty side effect.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the number needs to be, if they're going to do it, I think the number needs to be reduced.
Or, okay, yes, reduced and give me something. Why, if dilithium is this incredibly precious resource, why does it take just dumping dilithium to make something? It doesn't make any practical sense. There's no attachment to reality with that figure.
It feels like if I take a handful of iron nails and I take a stack of dollar bills and I throw them in a burn barrel and toss in a match and then boom, and then when the fire's done I pull out a brand new pistol. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Well, what am I spending money on? I mean, shouldn't the whole point of crafting be it doesn't take any actual money? It takes whatever else is in the game, but crafting doesn't take any currency? That seems like, I don't know, maybe the way crafting would work is, I would love to be able to, as a low player especially, craft stuff up. Maybe it's even just slightly better than what I could get without money at first, because, I don't know, my low-level player that I copied over from Holodeck is poor. I'm poor. Yeah.
Well, and I think that'll change once free-to-play goes live. I think they're going to adjust the currency rates, and I know we've already spoken about this, is because if they don't adjust the currency rates, that means that the free-to-play players will get 30% more dilithium for their time than you and I did. So I'm certain that they'll adjust that. In fact, I think they'll give us a bonus. I think what'll happen is, here's what I think will happen. I think what'll happen is right before free-to-play goes live, they'll make an announcement that says if you have an active subscription when free-to-play goes live, then all your stuff will be converted at this really high rate. Right, so like the free-to-players, they'll earn 480 dilithium for the same amount of time. But our character, the currency on our characters will be converted at something really high, like 700 or 800, as sort of a thank you for the subscribers, but also as a way to jumpstart the economy. Because then you'll have a bunch of previous players that'll have, or previously subscribed players that'll have a whole bunch of dilithium, some C-source stipend.
Besides, if you don't, all of the money's going to be at the low end of the game.
And what'll happen is for the first 2 or 3 weeks, you'll have the whatever they're going to call it, the dilithium C-store point exchange. It'll be empty because it's going to take a couple of weeks minimum before the new free-to-play grinders come in and grind before they've got enough money to afford anything to trade for C-store points.
Do you guys
to jumpstart the economy?
Speaking of the economy, do you guys want to? We have a lot in the economy, Doc. Is there some specific areas you want to draw out before we wrap up the roundtable?
I think there was something we were talking about regarding the C-store points. People were complaining about all of the increases in the C-store.
Yeah, but we've also seen some decreases.
No.
Yeah,
So
we've got some numbers on that.
Well, Storm Shade and D-Stall both said things are going to go down. Well, 58% of the things actually went up, and only 10% of the items went down. And then on top of that, Salami Inferno made a post saying, the C-Store changes are final. This is how it's going to be.
Didn't the fleet go out and do a comparison, though, to other MMOs and find that on average, though, STO still remains surprisingly cheaper than, like, EVE or WoW?
Yeah, I heard one good example for that. Something about, was it Lord of the Rings Online? Someone said a horse can cost $30.
A horse?
So,
but it comes with a special goat, I guess, which is a non-combat.
Well, if it comes with a goat.
Yep.
Oh,
there you
man.
go. But it's $30, which is more than the Tier 5 ships, which are only $25. $25 is my understanding. It's typical for the cost of a mount in the 800-pound gorilla, and a lot of other things. The $70 monocle, the $40 pair of pants, and in EVE. So despite the way the prices seem, I think a lot of the things in Cryptic C-Store are actually a lot cheaper than stuff in other MMOs.
And now that it's becoming more of a primary revenue stream, I think that's probably what they figured was we actually got to start making some serious money at this.
Right. Yeah, and that's the key point to get. It's like a lot of the stuff, the doom and gloom around the forums has been like, oh, the sky is falling. A lot of these things are going to annoy a lot of people, but we need to see where it's going to settle. But I think the trends that we're seeing at the moment are a little bit worrying in terms of the negative impact on longer-standing players.
Mm-hmm.
The new guys coming in,
and I honestly feel like there could be, especially when it comes down to this daily dilithium thing. I just hate the idea that and I'm a busy person. I really honestly am, and I just can't log in every single day sometimes. And I hate that I'll lose out on 8,000 refined dilithium a day. And it just seems like if I'm paying, or if I have paid, they give me a console. I don't care, whatever it takes to automatically refine that stuff. I mean, something. I can't see but any way but screwing me, and it's just really pissing me off.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a good bonus for subscribers? One that doesn't actually affect the game's economy at all. The bonus being, if I'm a subscriber or a lifetimer, then at whatever time in the AM, if I haven't logged on and I haven't refined dilithium, then my character will just refine the dilithium automatically for me for that day. Not exceeding a limit. I don't get to refine more than anyone else. It's just that if I'm busy, because I have a job, which is why I can afford C-Store points, so if I'm busy, then it'll just do it for me automatically. Still doesn't really give me any benefit, doesn't increase the amount of dilithium coming into the economy, but makes it more of, if I subscribe, I am still able to play the game on my terms.
It is, in my opinion, would be the number one bullet point for the column of what you get when you pay. I mean, it's unquestionably a great perk, and I'm still hearing, in fact, I know the Cryptic guys are really busy, but I spent last night going outside of the Jupiter Force forums and the Jupiter Colony and outside of the STO forum to see what other communities are saying about these changes, and they're all super pissed. But I'm still seeing a ton of people talk about how the Matrix they don't feel balanced enough. And I think some of that is, just a little over butt-hurtness, but this would be something I think that would shut a lot of people up. It is a very good perk. And come on, if you were a free-to-play player and you saw that, I think that'd probably get you to, well, maybe that's what they don't want, actually. I think they want people to stay free.
Chris, throwing that around yourself. You got a lifetime subscription, same as I think everyone else in the top and half here. So what we're talking now is, what if you didn't have that would make you pay for a silver subscription?
That right there. Without hesitation, that would
make me think about it, because I mean, there's a couple of little things. There's some Foundry things which most people don't make Foundry missions. There's
you get the slots. That's important.
You get some more inventory. Those are kind of neat, but not. But then, if on top of all these little things which are kind of neat, but I'm not really interested in paying for.
Exactly.
But then I pay, and then I don't have to keep grinding all the time. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do the subscription.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it makes it worth it.
And
if they loaded the Matrix towards convenience, then you'd have more people willing to pay the subscription, you reckon?
It already is loaded towards convenience. I mean, the whole, the stipend, and you can buy through the C-Store. It's like, if you're a casual player, you're going to probably subscribe. If you're a grinder, you're going to go free to play. And that seems like that's just the way it's falling, except for this last piece is still effing the casual player. And you got to figure a Star Trek video game is going to bring in more non-MMO players than another MMO might. With the exception maybe no, I don't even know about the Old Republic, but I would just say that one of the early things about this game is they knew the people going into it weren't necessarily big MMO players. And people that are more Star Trek fans like myself, I don't want to grind all the time. I will do it. There will be weeks when I have a blast just living in Stowe and I'm grinding and it's fine. It doesn't matter. But there's other weeks where I'm going to feel like I'm getting butt effed.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts on it. Any other thoughts on the economy?
No, I think we need to hang back for a couple of weeks and just see how it develops with the changes, because if it goes in the way it is at the moment, the people who are going to be most pissed about it are going to be guys who have been in there with the lifetime subscriptions.
I don't think it's time to be great yet, but I think it's time to be concerned and keep watching the numbers.
And I think this game has room to slow down. I think there could be areas where things could take a little longer. I think it's a little appropriate, actually. There needs to be some balancing there. And so this all, like I said at the beginning of the show, is in a state of flux. It's all things that are subject to change. We thought we'd sit down and have a very serious conversation about them to voice our concerns as if they were real so that we can really think about all the different angles here. And I want to encourage your thoughts too, so leave comments wherever you're watching this and let me know what you guys think. All right, gentlemen, well, I think I'm going to wrap us up on the round table. Any other thoughts before we close?
Watch this space.
Yeah. And
the 700-day vet reward, it's going to go live right around the same time.
Right.
Free to play. My idea for the vet reward? Rocket boots.
Surprise, surprise. Rocket boots. All right. Well, let's go get mathed with Nikki. Back to math. It's been a long time now. I'm not going to sit here and give you the maths of skills. No. In fact, I'm going to bring on Nikki from Jupiter Force, who is the fleet's local skills expert. She's helped me with the revamp that I did for our STF walkthroughs a while ago, and she's also helped out a ton of other members in Jupiter Force. Nikki, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
So we're having you on today because down the road, we don't know all the details yet, but it's been announced that Stowe is going to see a skill revamp soon. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what we do know?
Yep. Earlier, I think it was last week or earlier this week, Captain Gecko went into the forums and gave us a nice little taste of what we're going to be seeing for a new set of skills. And basically, to kind of put this into a Star Trek perspective, this is going from the TOS Constitution to the motion picture. So it's not going to be the same Enterprise you've known for quite some time.
Oh.
So basically, just a quick summary of basically what Gecko put down here. And first and foremost, Starfleet training skills gone. They are being thrown out the door.
Really?
So that they're going to be changed, as well as especially a lot of the tactical powers. Those are going to be making a massive change. And most notably, you don't have to spec into specific energy or projectile weapons types.
Oh, that is big.
Especially for those of you shooting antiproton, polarons, chronoton, or especially tricobalt lovers out there. Especially those of you who like to Greek ESD with tricobalt mines. You don't have to worry about speccing into them anymore to do massive damage per se. You can actually spec now whatever weapon you want, and there's no penalty for going tier 5 versus tier 3.
Oh, interesting.
So there's that.
And wasn't there talk of splitting ground and space too more, or is that just something I wanted to?
There is a complete split of ground and space, and we actually don't know anything about ground right now. That still seems to be completely in the works. And I know one of the things people are hoping for with the ground split, that all of a sudden engineers in size, they might say, well, we're kind of damage deficient on the ground. We can't spec into weapons, whereas Tax can have all of these skills they can put points into right now, and one-shot tactical drones. So all of a sudden now we might see a change where all of a sudden they might not be as strong as tacticals, but a Psi can actually shoot a sniper rifle and it's reasonably effective, as opposed to just kicking the bee's nest, they can actually blow it wide open.
This isn't really, do you agree that this isn't so much a revamp as it is a reintroduction? Because it seems a pretty massive overhaul when you're splitting all that stuff out.
Yeah, it is a pretty big overhaul. That's why I said it's kind of the same as going from TOS Enterprise to Motion Picture. It's still supposedly the same ship and same class, but you don't recognize it. I'm sure, like, when that movie debuted, everyone's jaw dropped to see the new Enterprise. People are going to undoubtedly be quite astonished with how the skill system is going to be changing, especially since with the current system, to make a skill better, for example, your hazard emitters or your engineering team, you had 3 separate skills that you had to spec into. Your engineering team, I think it was engine maintenance and starship hull repair, whereas now, one skill. Only one. You only need to spec into one skill now to benefit certain clickable abilities.
That's definitely making it easier.
Yeah. Anything to simplify things, because I know a lot of people would, just from the description I just made, they would think, why would you be speccing into engine maintenance to get a better engineering team? It doesn't really make much sense, and I think that's part of it too, is simplifying and also taking away some of the weirdness that you saw, like speccing into engine maintenance, or to actually get something like an engineering team 3, to stick with the same example, you spec'd into a ground skill of all things, which again, just a little bit more to kind of clean up the confusion, clean up some of the clutter, and but that doesn't come without a little bit of, or the simplification doesn't come without a hitch though. The clickable skills that you do spec into to gain a benefit, they are now, with the new revamp, they're only going to be 75% as effective as they once were.
Oh, really? So they're sort of taking off some of their punch.
Yeah, taking off some of the punch, so you won't see, for example, a tanking engineering build all of a sudden just miraculously heal themselves to full in an instant, which I know, especially for some of the PvPers, they would, be pounding on each other, and then all of a sudden that engineer you've been trying to kill all of a sudden heals himself up to max, and then you want to throw your keyboard and yell and scream. And
Yeah, for PvPers, is this a big upset? Or is this going to be, because it seems like they've sort of taken advantage of the current system to an extent, understandably.
I think it will give them some benefits, and there's also going to be stuff that they're not going to like. And I know from previously being a part of a PvP fleet before I joined Jupiter Force, you can't make every PvPer happy, and there's always going to be something that's the same as those of us who are primarily playing PvE. We're not all going to be happy about the economy, about crafting, and about our ship's abilities.
Yeah.
So, but the one thing that I'm thinking it's going to really help a lot of people is that it's going to get simpler, and you're not going to be penalized if you like purple weapons.
Which I do. Any other thoughts on the changes? Obviously, we'll cover the actual numbers more when they come out. We know we're going to have potentially that 75% number where it's going to be 75% as effective, or 75% glass half full. What else? Anything else on the skill stuff that we know yet?
One thing I will point out is that there's going to be a lot more passive skills coming in as well, because you're going to be seeing just flat boosts to your shield or your hull numbers. You can just spec straight into them rather than having to go and say, okay, well, I need to try and balance out between speccing into my tier 2, 3, 4, and 5 ship, so that people can just say, oh, well, I need more hulls, so I'll just spec into structural integrity, going with the current language Captain Gecko's using in his forum post. And the other thing I think that will be especially easier for skills that I think were personally neglected is a lot of people would look at things like combat maneuvers and battle strategies and say, I'm not using attack pattern Omega or attack pattern Beta on my ship, so why should I bother speccing into those? Because, those skills don't really benefit me. Well, what they didn't know is that they're benefiting things like your turn rate, your crit severity, and a lot of your defensive bonuses. People didn't necessarily know that. So all of a sudden, there's a skill that says flat out, your starship defense, your maneuvers.
Right.
So all of a sudden you're getting a much bigger defense bonus just because you turned your engines on while you were fighting somebody.
Yeah.
And that's something pretty important. Is if you come to a dead stop, it's basically like putting a sign on your ship that says "kick me."
Yeah. It's so true. All right. Anything else before we wrap?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Just one last thing I think I'll mention that I'm looking at specifically is two things. I'm not 100% sure where Gecko's putting hazard emitters in all of this. I think personally, I think it's probably the best skill in the game and most useful, but again, that's just personal opinion. I'd like to know exactly where that fits in, and also where our weapon-specific consoles are going to fit in, like our phaser relays, disruptor coils, and things like that.
Yeah.
Because if we're getting rid of speccing into phasers,
Right.
what's going to happen to those consoles? Are they still going to be as useful as they once were, or am I going to have to take all my current TAC consoles and toss them in the bin?
Yeah, that is a good question. I guess that's one of the things we'll probably follow up on as we find out more. The advantage of kind of watching this stuff now is we're going to kind of see how it unravels, and then we can cover it as it unravels. And I think when everything kind of hits and it's finalized, you and I should come on and we should do like a total, like, here it is, this is the changes, and this is how you take advantage of it. But it's a little bit off till that happens, I think. All right, Nikki.
Go ahead. We'll see when that finally gets to Tribble and I can start playing with it. I was hoping to have it for this past Thursday, but a little bit of sad panda, we didn't get to see it, but hopefully
soon.
It'll come along soon, and
get our hands on it.
Gecko usually does a good job, so.
And now he's got that extra help from Jeremy. We should be seeing this stuff turn out even faster, right? Right?
Yeah.
All right, Nikki. Well, thanks for coming on Math and breaking it down for us. And, if people want to have a conversation with you or the other guys, too, we should mention, head over to jupiterforce.org. There's a forum section in there, so if people are pretty interested in the skill stuff, that might be a good spot to chat up with you on people's take on it, yeah? You think? All right, there you have it. So jupiterforce.org/forum.
Yeah. And also, if anyone's got some build questions, I'll probably see it if you do post something in the public chat.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you'll take a few build questions if people have them, too.
Yeah. If there's something that I can kind of answer that's on a common theme, I can usually help with that. But, if everyone just starts showing up and say, can you make me a new build, I'll probably say no because the skill revamp's coming in.
Yeah, just wait.
Soon. It's like,
just hold on, everybody. Just hold on. It's coming. It's all going to change. All right. Well, Nikki, thanks for coming on. That's our first look at the new skill system. It's time for the Jupiter Force's Foundry files. Our Foundry team has joined me right here, as you can see, over Subspace Link. And in this episode, we're going to talk about a little game called A Winter's Grasp. And the thing that's interesting about this is that, A, it was a Jupiter Force mission, but the guys played through so many. This is one of the few that actually made it. It has 80 plays at the time of this recording, 3.77 average star rating, with, roughly probably about 30 minutes of play time, and just something to keep in mind, it is very much a diplomatic mission. In fact, there's no combat. So, Murphy, that actually leads me right to the story. If there's no combat, this has got to be story-heavy, right?
So it is very story-heavy in this mission. It's basically a search and rescue mission when you enter the system. You are ordered to find this research base that has sent out a distress call and search for any survivors. And so you arrive, you beam down to this frozen ice planet, and you have to go search for these survivors during the course of the mission. And pretty much that's all we really want to go into for story-wise, because at this point, we think what you're going to start discovering could spoil the story for you. So that's all we're really going to go into on story and plot. But the dialogue in this mission was written very well. I really enjoyed the dialogue. I think most people agree on the team that it was written very well. And a nice touch for the dialogue was that the author includes a star date that the base was founded, and it was correct. Because when we calculate the star date over, it was in the year 2405. So that was a nice touch. Like, it wasn't wrong. And also, the characters in the mission aren't memorable, but they aren't bad. They were functional for this mission. And there's a bit of touchstoning in this mission.
Oh, we love that.
For Yes. The Daystrom Institute, which everybody knows, is a huge scientific research group that works for the Federation. Mm-hmm. That one we see a lot in Star Trek. Well, this is a new one called the Schelling Institute, and it pretty much works like the Daystrom Institute, but it's another branch. And so we see that in this mission. And the author has done a lot of research on how the technology works, like the transporter, and he knows the pieces, and he mentions that in his dialogue, which is a really nice touch.
You mean like the Trek technology? He understands
the Trek technology. I forget what the Heisenberg compensator.
Heisenberg compensators.
Yes. He mentions that in the mission, and it was really well done. Because it's part of a puzzle. When you hear that part. So he did a lot of research on how this stuff works, and you can tell by just reading the story that he knows his stuff.
He
spent time thinking on it.
Well, I didn't grow up, but I know that I was at an impressionable age when the Star Trek technical manual for the Next Generation came out. And so I read that thing end to end so many times that there's this whole level of appreciation that I have when a Foundry author is able to work in stuff like that, because it just makes it so much richer. Any other thoughts on the story, Murphy?
That's pretty much it. It's a very short mission because it's 25 to 30 minutes, but it's very good. And I think the one thing that Wee Wee's going to talk about is the puzzles are going to be really well done. That's what made this mission, I think. But the score for the story was 8.07, so it was pretty good.
That's not bad. Irish, you're our technical guy. I know we always like to talk about some of the technical features of a mission. What'd you think as far as that side goes?
Yeah, I don't like being the down guy on it, but from a technical perspective, this is maybe 1 or 2 levels higher than the Hello World mission.
Really?
It's difficult to kind of be positive about it, and at the same time, I don't want to be too negative. We went through about 42 missions to find this thing, and it stands out on the fact that it's pure diplomacy, and the author got a great story across. From a technical perspective, I need to kind of slap it a little bit, because you've got a space map you zone into at the beginning where literally it's a planet and a reach marker, in, beam down, nothing else in that zone, nothing stood out to me. The force ground map, and this is where myself and the guys differ massively on our opinions of this. They were amazed by the fact that it's a kind of a frozen wasteland with a few colony buildings, a little shuttle landing pad, and you're kind of lost in a blizzard, a bit of a whiteout effect going on there. So they were kind of wowed by that. I got it a little less so because I took it into demo record and look around, and there's very limited modifications made or customization.
Oh, but that's cheating. That's cheating. If they're able to surprise you, you got to see it. When you go in the demo record, you get to see extra stuff.
Yeah, but I didn't look for the extra stuff. I'm literally talking what the author put in place. I went to demo record to see if I could find extras that were there I didn't see. But when I played it, I just like a building. I clicked on that. I ran over that building. I clicked on that. I went over there. Oh, I'm on the next map. So I was hoping to find something I missed, some decoration or just something a little extra instead of just the perfunctory stuff. The next map is what the guys really raved about. It's a very well done. It's an interior map. It's out of the box. It's just like 2 big rooms, a couple of corridors. There's a nice touch where you go through a corridor, and because this is an ice planet, essentially, there's a breach in one of the corridor ceilings, and you've got some drops coming through and some ice blocks. You can't see the breach, but the drops are giving it away and the ice on the ground. It was a nice little kind of turn around the corner moment and go, oh, look, see, he thought of that. And then you go through to the last room, and I will give it to the guys. When you walk into this last room, the first thing you do get an impression of is you're in a little alcove with basically shields like that around you. 4 shields, and in behind the 4 shields you have all the decor, and what he's done is he's put in machinery, he's put in ice effects, fog effects, he's hidden little steam jets behind platforms so you can see the effect of blasting out like it's cold, but you can't see where its origination point is. So there's a lot of little touch like that, and it works from just the fact that you're stuck in that little alcove, that's all you can see.
Oh, okay.
So it's a really well-designed room from that perspective, but where the guys scored it massively for the fact of the wow factor there, I kind of just went middle of the road because it was just a little bit more customization than we'd seen on the previous parts of the map, and it's kind of like this is where the focus of the attention went. So for me,
you were hungry for more since it's so story-driven.
Yeah, and also because I have to come at this from a technical perspective, I'm looking to see, is this guy using triggers?
Right.
Are we seeing like different component complete, objects complete, that kind of stuff being used? There's not a lot of that there. It really does live and die on its dialogue.
It seems like one of the important aspects to a more story-driven game is a rich textured world that you can sort of be swooped up into.
Yeah, I was looking for side effects, yeah.
What was your overall rating of the technical section?
It came in at 6.14, which is kind of the 5th tech on the list at the moment, but that's because 2 guys scored it up high, I scored it a little lower. Realistically, to me, this is probably around a 5.5, but the consensus decision is 6.14.
Okay. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the gameplay. There's not a lot of combat in this one, so how was your impressions leaving this? Did you enjoy it?
Well, with it being a non-combat mission, it's a diplomatic mission to start, and there are a lot of dialogue boxes, there are a lot of interactions, and that'll lead into the whole FK, which I'll explain a bit later. But from the beginning, no combat at all. It's mentioned in the author mentioned it in the pre-dialogue. Do not expect any sort of combat throughout.
So
this
you get
mission.
a warning before you play. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And just a nice touch at the end. I don't know whether it was intentional by Cryptic or a thing with the Foundry rating system or something. Well, yeah, you actually get 10 diplomacy XP at the end of this mission.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's a bonus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which was
must be
actually
worth
rather
playing it right
surprising
there, really.
to all of us, yes, because it'll help you rank 2 ambassador and get those transport things you need to get to the bases. But the space gameplay was limited. It's really the only map you get into, and you just fly to the planet and beam down, and the rest is just ground. So
any kind of like puzzles or anything like that?
Well, yeah, there are a couple of puzzles during the interior. The first puzzle is with the force fields. You have to try and divert power from 2 other force fields to reinforce one of the force fields and redistribute that through the other 2. However, if you distribute power from 2 of the wrong force fields into another force field, one of those fields may start losing
I see.
what's the word? Coherency.
Integrity.
Yeah.
Integrity, yes. Thanks.
Cohesion.
Or whatever. And they might start to collapse, in which case your engineer resets the entire thing and you have to start the puzzle again.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's dialogue based. So again, the F key, you have to keep pressing it throughout the mission. Can be a little tiring and boring, but yeah, you'll just have to really live with it throughout the mission.
Not a lot of positive there. Were there elements you enjoyed?
Oh yeah, the actual puzzle itself and the concept behind it was fantastic. I loved it.
Okay.
That's in relation to all the dialogue and the complexity of all of it. But yeah, negative sides, positive sides.
What was your overall rating of the gameplay section?
Well, we scored it 2 different ways, combat and non-combat. We didn't want to punish the author for having no combat, even though he didn't intend for it to be like
People
that.
might not realize, but the Jupiter Force Foundry Files has a standardized rating method that they run all of these missions through, and it does specifically have an area in there for the combat section. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Combat we rated it at 4.71, and without combat at 6.6.
Okay, 6.6 without combat. Oh, that's pretty positive. Murphy, do you want to wrap this up and kind of give a summary on as to cap this thing off?
Yeah, so overall, this mission is perfect for somebody who wants to play a diplomatic mission, and you'll get some DXP. So it's just like one of those cryptic missions that they came out with in Season 2. There's a whole bunch of those that came out. And once you're out of those, you're just like, oh, I kind of got to go grind these in exploration clusters. Now you got a mission like this where you can get some DXP. So, and there's 2 puzzles in it, and they're really well done puzzles. I think most of the people on the team enjoyed them.
Okay. All right. That's not bad. I mean, I think if I can go play something to give me a little diplomacy XP besides
so if you're looking to rank up on that, check this mission out.
Yeah.
So you can check out our official review doc in the show notes. And again, we have another public service announcement. So of course I had Irish write me up a script because these are very important.
Can't miss these. Got to get them word for word after all.
Well, yeah, it's super important. So here we go. In 2011, a crack foundry unit was sent to holodeck by a dev court for a crime they didn't commit.
Whoa.
These men promptly escaped from that minimum content stockade to the Tribble underground. Today, still wanted by the devs, they survive as reviewers of fortune. If you have a mission, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the F team. P.S. Murphy, lack of action figures sold separately. Signed, Irish. You should check these scripts before we go on air, Murphy.
Murphy, you're not supposed to read that part.
Thanks, Irish.
Come on, Murphy. Jeez. Irish, do you have any other things you want to toss in before we head out? You're muted. Oh, not your tribbles. I think you sat on your mute button, Irish.
Uh-oh.
I think what he was going to say is, I'm not going to mute my mic when I'm playing with my tribbles from now on.
Tribbles needed attention.
That's a before show joke.
The tribbles need attention. No, you were going to mention if people wanted to go check out Starbase UGC to learn more about Foundry stuff, right?
Yeah, Starbase UGC, go get your tutorials over there. And I believe they've got a new little thing they're doing with Broadcast UGC, where they'll actually do a live playthrough of Foundry missions, which is, again,
I was
awesome.
on there. I was on there about a week ago. We played a really good mission. I highly recommend checking out. I forget the name of it. We might include that in the show notes, or we might actually do a full review on it because it was really well done.
All right. So that's so they're calling that Broadcast UGC. Huh? Where do you find that at?
You can find it over. Yeah, you can find it at the Starbase UGC website. It's usually on their front page. It's titled Broadcast UGC. It's pretty much a whole playthrough of the mission, so it's like an hour long, but they talk through it. It's mainly, they said, for the authors who designed the mission, because one of their people who does it, Galactic, said when somebody did a video walkthrough for his mission, as an author, it really helped him out in seeing what he needs.
That makes sense. So it's sort of like a way for authors to watch a third party play it and kind of get their take on it and go make changes to based on their feedback.
If you're looking for someone to review your mission, and you send it to them and us, of course.
Cool. The important point for me is it's video walkthrough. That's what we've been missing. A lot of this stuff is video of the Foundry missions.
Yeah. What if people want to submit Foundry missions for suggestions to the show? JupiterForce.org/forum, or what do you think? Or we set up an email, didn't we?
But the best way to do it is foundryfiles@jupiterforce.net.
Foundryfiles@jupiterforce.net.
Yep.
There you have it. All right, well, I have one more thing I want to say before we sign off here on the show today, and that is if you have ever listened to another Stowe podcast out there called Red Shirt Army, they're having some troubles. I don't know. I think they're going through some host restructuring just like this show is, and they're looking for donations for equipment. And you can go check them out. Look for Red Shirt Army. And I just wanted to say maybe they could, maybe the community could help them get back on the air, because anyone out there covering Stowe stuff is good for the Stowe community, and we don't want to see them off the air. All right. Now, with all of that said, that just about wraps up this week's episode of Stoked. Now, Stoked comes out on Tuesdays over at JupiterBroadcasting.com and is live Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Pacific, JB Live. Look at the chat room right there, being our co-hosts and our backseat drivers at the same time. It's a pretty complicated relationship, but you can be involved with it too. JBLive.tv, 11 a.m. Pacific on Saturdays. Let me know what you think. Send in your email, stoked@jupiterbroadcasting.com, or just leave a comment wherever you watch this. We'll all be looking at those, and you can engage the Jupiter Force as well over at jupiterforce.org/forum if anything they've talked about today has sparked your interest. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for watching this week's episode of Stoked, and we'll see you right back here next Tuesday.